We talking about sports, get ball.
What it do, baby? Yeah.
Welcome back to a brand new edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. I'm your host, Premal Bot, and for this episode, I am joined by host of Rants, host of Alternate Jersey, Grant Nordine. Welcome back to the show. Glad to have you, man.
Glad to be here. I'm excited to be on the show and talk about what we're talking about today.
Yeah, we might be bringing up one of your favorite teams here in a little bit. So I wanted to get your take on one Mr. Future Jeopardy full-time host.
LeVar Burton?
But before we get to that, yeah, LeVar Burton, number 12 on the Green Bay Packers.
Right.
But before we get to that, let's hear from our sponsor. This episode of the Prem Brulee podcast is brought to you by Urban Exterior Co. For all your roofing, siding, and gutter needs, please visit urbanexteriorco.com. That's urbanexteriorco.com. Number one roofing, siding, and gutter company for the number one podcast in your headphones. You already know the vibes. And with that, let's get going on Yeah Fam or Nah, Grant. You ready?
Hell yeah.
All right. So, first up, easy one for you, but kind of vague. NFL draft. Just a little recap since it was a little bit of time ago. Obviously, the first two picks went chalk. Trevor Lawrence to the Jags, Zach Wilson to the Jets. The Niners decided to take Trey Lance at number 3. More on that later. You can already sense the vibes, you number one podcast listeners, based on previous episodes. Kyle Pitts did go number 4 to the Falcons, and Jamar Chase went number 5 to the Bengals. They elected to go receiver and pair Joe Burrow with
congratulations,
one of his college teammates instead of going offensive line. Some other notable picks before I get your take. The Dolphins did go receiver, but they chose Jalen Waddle at number 6. Penei Sewell, the draft's top lineman, ended up going 7 to the Lions. Personal note, I did not see one single fucking mock draft do this, but both cornerbacks went in consecutive picks right before the Dallas Cowboys, which sent them into panic mode, and they traded down and still wound up with Micah Parsons. So they made the best of the situation, but did not see one fucking mock draft with both corners gone for the Cowboys at number 10, but there we go. Their original spot, they actually traded within their division. The Eagles traded up to get a receiver, Devontae Smith, at 10. And our boy, everyone's boy, Justin Fields, went number 11. The Chicago Bears traded up to get him. And then the other notable pick, Mac Jones, who Dan Orlovsky wanted you to know was the top quarterback basically in the draft, ended up going 15 to the Patriots, just like everybody thought. Of course, he ends up there.
Right.
Because Bill Belichick loves his doughboy quarterback. All that being said, Grant, yeah fam or not, the draft overall, and specifically wanted to get your take on if you're yeah fam or not for how the quarterbacks went in order. The top 5 ones, obviously.
Yeah, I overall, yeah fam. I think everyone was drafting to fill their needs. I partially feel responsible for the Cowboys missing out on both corners because I think I said it in our group chat, and I was like, watch the Broncos make Premal miserable right now, and they did, and I was like, oh shit. When will I learn this evil power that I have?
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby! Don't you put that on us!
As far as quarterback order goes, I mean, yeah, I've been pretty vocal about believing that the only quarterback I'd really want to, take early in the first was Lawrence, and then after him I had Fields at 2. I have a very strong anti-BYU bias, so very funny to me that Zach Wilson ends up in the big city.
Yeah.
I think Trey Lance to the Niners makes sense. Do I think Trey Lance is the third best quarterback in the draft? But do I like him in that system sitting behind Garoppolo with Kyle Shanahan? Yeah, they're trying to Mahomes him. You have a baby Mahomes, why not do that, So, in the order they went, I get it. If you're sold on your guy, go get your guy. Love that someone traded up for Fields, though. Big fan of that.
Yeah, I know we're going to cover a lot of our, winners and losers of the draft. Spoiler alert, Bears big winner, much to the chagrin of you as a Packers fan. I know quite a bit of Lions fans, but for once the Bears made an aggressive, correct move and invested in the quarterback position, which they have wildly failed at so far.
Now, they've made aggressive moves to get quarterbacks before. Just the wrong guy.
Just the wrong ones.
When they didn't need to.
Exactly. So I'm also fan of the draft overall. It was awesome getting to be up in Cleveland for it, hang out, obviously fully vaccinated and safe, but it was cool to be up there near the action and have it in my home state. It's pretty sweet to see. The draft overall, I'm a sucker for the draft. Love seeing it. Love watching all 3 days of it, so I'm all for it. The order of the QBs, I mean, yeah, based on what we were told, I get it, but you already know I'm a nod of that.
Right.
Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in this, and I know you were saying the same thing. I know it's kind of a given. Zach Wilson was second, and I get the Trey Lance move makes sense. I know you compared it kind of like, I know you're not saying he's Mahomes, but Trey Lance would be Mahomes in the world where Mahomes barely played any games, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, his play style is similar for sure, but I'm not, I was also skeptical of Mahomes when he was coming out, so what the hell do I know?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, not everyone knew that one, but I'm rooting for Fields, put it that way. I want to see him do well in Chicago. I really would have loved to see him work with Shanahan in San Francisco, so it's a shame they went with Lance.
Yeah, Fields could have been a lot of fun in that room, but hey, I mean, Fields in Chicago is a good pick. I'm a weird Packers fan. I don't harbor any ill will or hatred towards the Bears. I don't know why. Probably because they haven't been a threat for as long as I've been alive. So part of me is like, oh, good for them. That's cute.
Yeah. What a blessing for you.
No, I know. I'm sorry.
We'll get you off your high horse.
I know.
Anyway. Okay. I wanted to move over to the NBA. Fame or not, to the NBA play-in tournament. Of course, LeBron James loved it a year ago when his team was sitting pretty atop the West. Hates it now. Wanted whoever's responsible to be fired because he happens to find himself in the play-in. Are you a fan of this method? It started last year in the bubble. They continued it this year in this little bit of a shortened season with no off season. You like this method?
I love it. I'm a big fan. I am always a fan of doing weird shit in the playoffs. Like same time last year, the NHL was like, okay, our season got paused, so we're gonna do a 24-team playoffs. And I was like, hell, fucking yeah, we are.
Yeah, why not?
So I love the play-in. It gives these like on the bubble teams a cool chance to get in. Like, I guess LeBron's argument is people like are like hurt and you're making them play more, but it's like you said, bro, it doesn't matter what seed you are, so fucking prove it.
yeah, prove it. I love it. I think it makes for entertaining basketball. We're so used to seeing 7-game series, and this brings the excitement of like kind of an NCAA tournament style, like a mini tournament, one and done for the bottom, the 9 and 10 seeds, and then potentially you could see a 7 or 8 seed that would have ordinarily got in not make a playoff spot. So I think that's kind of cool to be able to see. If those of you number one podcast listeners, if you looked at that bracket and were confused, just a quick little breakdown for you the way it works. The play-in matches up the 7 versus the 8 seed and the 9 versus the 10 seed. So going over to the 7 and 8 game, the winner of that game just has to play once. They get in to the playoffs as the 7 seed. So whoever wins that game is in. Next, the 9 and 10 game. The winner moves on. The loser is eliminated from playoff contention. So we have a loser of the 7-8 game and a winner of the 9 and 10 game. They play each other for the remaining spot, the 8 seed. So if you're wondering how it works, that's how it works. Basically, the 7 and 8 seed get 2 chances to win one game, and the 9 and 10 seed to get a playoff spot have to win twice in a row. So just a little synopsis. So I dig it. I love the way they set it up, and I think it adds excitement to it.
Fun and easy. Any chance you get to see Russell Westbrook do more weird shit is always good.
Okay, I have a bonus one for you. Over in the Eastern Conference, Yafem or not, the Brooklyn Villains should be concerned with how few games their big three play together. So, did a little research. This was from ESPN. I believe it was Malika Andrews. They played in just 8 games together this year. Their big three, obviously, of King Snake Kevin Durant, Kyrie Flat Earth Irving, and James Extra Large Smoothie Harden. So, some combination of the Nets' big three has played in 46 games for the Nets this season. Harden and Irving have played in just 19 games together. Durant and Irving have played in 17 games. Then Harden and Durant have played in just 3 games together. So the Villains did clinch the number 2 seed in the East. They will play the Celtics in the first round. Yeah, fam or not, is this a concern to you? Where's your level at for the Brooklyn Villains here?
I wouldn't be concerned. I also was laughing as I forgot you dubbed them the Villains, and I just started laughing at it.
Oh, absolutely.
From the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
Don't you ever forget it.
Hey, I'm with you. Two out of 3 have annoyed me and spurred my own team, so whatever, fuck them. But I wouldn't be worried because you're at the 2 seed. You're already sitting pretty. You're pretty much going to get a lot of practice time with a lot of lesser teams. Like anything below like 3 in the East isn't exactly stacked. So I think we're still going to barrel towards a Sixers-Nets final. At that point, then I'd start being worried about a lack of chemistry because the 76ers have gelled so well. But like anyone currently under the Nets, I wouldn't be too worried about yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it comes into play until they get probably to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's going to be crazy. Assuming they all play, they're going to exceed the amount of games they played just in this postseason.
Right, yeah, exactly.
They're going to match it after they breeze through the first 2 series, and then by the time they play game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, they would have exceeded the number of games they've played together already in the regular season. It's just crazy to think about.
Yeah, absolutely absurd that high caliber of a super team hasn't had a lot of time to play full games. But hey, what a hell of a proving fire, right? The playoffs.
Oh yeah, I guess we'll find out. Hopefully the Villains lose. That'd be hilarious.
I'm begging for a Suns Sixers final. I'm asking God every night, please.
Wow, we'll call it the Charles Barkley NBA Finals.
Exactly.
On that note, let's go to our favorite section. You know what time it is. Let's hit that intro.
I'm petty as hell. And I'm super petty. Here we Petty Le Pew. Go.
That's right. You number 1 podcast listeners, it's time for You Played Yourself. We have quite the special edition. Grant is a Packers fan, so it was only right I led off with, of course, a You Played Yourself to the Green Bay Packers with their Aaron Rodgers saga. So, let me set the scene before I give you the mic, my guy, okay?
All right.
All right, so, of course, this news dropped on the eve of the NFL draft. Aaron Rodgers news upstaged the NFL draft, which didn't think any kind of NFL news would ever be able to do that. But right before the draft, Adam Schefter dropped a haymaker. He said that Aaron Rodgers was so disgruntled with the Green Bay Packers that he told some within the organization that he does not want to return to the team. Rodgers is unhappy for a variety of reasons, with some of it dating to last year's draft when the Packers didn't inform him before trading up to draft a quarterback, Jordan Love, in case everyone forgot who he was and who the Packers wasted a pick on. So, I mean, maybe, just maybe that had something to do with it, you fucking think? So, apparently this had been building for quite some time, and the Packers front office and their head coach, Matt LaFleur, even flew out multiple times to see him to try to right the ship. Basically, Adam Schefter just dropped it around the draft, but it had been bubbling for a while. In this year's draft, the Green Bay Packers did, in fact, use their first-round pick on an offensive...
First of all, you're not going to speed past that like you didn't just say
No. They still didn't do that. They used it on a cornerback, Eric Stokes, out of Georgia. With all that being said, Grant, I figured this was the subject for you, and you played yourself. So, give me your thoughts, Grant. Where's your head at with this news? And... please keep in mind, to keep it spicy for the number one podcast listeners.
Yeah, just the spiciest with me always. The thing that's been occupying my brain for the past month.
Rent free.
God damn.
Rent free.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to send an intro with this. The weekend it happened.
I'm sorry. What is rent free? What is rent free?
What is rent free? It's there. It's not paying to be there. It's just fucking there. This whole idea that we might not have Rodgers. I spent...
You have a Rodgers.
We've got Amari Rodgers,
number 8.
who I'm very excited about. I love Amari Rodgers. I mocked him to us a lot. Anyway, I spent probably that first weekend, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm not going to lie to you, losing sleep over it. Like draft night, I legit had like nightmares about it, which was my sign that I was like, I need to get off of the internet for like a little bit because I'm too invested in this. So there's my intro for this. I needed to take a mental health break from Twitter over a football player. Anyway, so the whole situation is kind of, Schefter making the decision to make the draft about Rodgers. We have that, like, not an official clip or anything, but someone who was at the Kentucky Derby who tried to get an interview noted that Rodgers was sad the news broke, which is like, okay, so he was trying to handle this quietly behind the scenes, that I don't know how he thought that was ever going to happen, considering he's Aaron fucking Rodgers. It's been weird, there's clearly a divide that has a lot to do with the communication breakdown between the front office and Rodgers. We've had the great fortune of having Aaron Rodgers on nearly every Tuesday on the Pat McAfee show, just talk about whatever the fuck, and he said that night was a 2 fingers of scotch night, and I'm like, same.
Yeah.
So, he wasn't in the loop. And then we all made the joke, oh, Aaron Rodgers is going to go MVP mode this season now because they pissed him off, and look what happened. He went MVP mode this offseason because they pissed him off. And, I think what he wants is twofold, right? He wants the security of Green Bay saying, you are our guy forever. Here's a shit ton of money, all guaranteed for you to be our guy until you're not anymore. And it's also like, you didn't fucking tell me. You didn't talk to me. And there's been like rumors buzzing fucking everywhere. I think this all ends with him getting like a record-setting contract, but the real question is like how the fuck do you get it to a point where he wants to be there? He clearly could go anywhere the hell he wants, but he's in a hard place because the Packers aren't going to trade him. Costs too much to do it. If he retires, he owes the Packers money, and even with owing them money, he still couldn't go anywhere he wanted. If he unretired, he's still under contract, and if I'm Green Bay, I'm like, oh, cool, welcome back. You're not Noodle Arm Favre, who just went 4-12 last season, Like, I think he's stuck. If he wants to play football, he's going to have to do it in Green Bay. And Green Bay's got to be like, okay, we massively fucked up, to the point where, like, everyone who took a quarterback in the draft talked to their guy. They're like, hey, Jimmy, we're taking Trey Lance. Hey, Tom, we're taking Kyle Trask. Hey, Kirk Cousins, we're taking Kellen Mond, as if Cousins deserves to be kept in the loop for anything ever. So it's like, I feel like that's sent a ripple throughout the league. Like, talk to your QBs, obviously. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers and he's been so coy about everything too. I'm just going to go off the rails here. So the only 2 things Rodgers has said during his silent time was, he was posting about his charity. Obviously, it's all he cares about right now, apart from this. And he granted one interview at the Kentucky Derby where he gave insight into horse racing, and I'm like, you jackass. One thing everyone wants to hear from
Rodgers.
you.
Yeah.
I love that bastard so much. I love him so
Agree,
much.
disagree.
I know. But I just love that little smug asshole. I do think, legitimately, this ends with him getting one of those, like, league resetting offers, right, where they have to lock him in forever.
Right.
If Goot is true to his word, they don't want to lose him. Everyone in the organization wants to keep him, so I'm in the mindset, do whatever you have to do to keep that man in the office. And that's it. And as a Packers fan, I'd like it a lot. I also don't think Rodgers is dumb enough to be like, you got to get me offensive help. Because if you watch the NFC Championship game, it sure as hell wasn't Valdez-Scantling or Devontae Adams blowing that game. I can circle 3 plays, all headlined by a man named Kevin King. So I'm like, okay, yeah, get his replacement immediately.
Right.
So I'm sure if I'm Rodgers, I'm like, okay, good. They're going and attacking the position we had a weak spot in the one game where we allowed over 30 points all year. I don't know. That's where my head is at with it. Aaron, please come home. If you do go anywhere, I hope it's nice and you win your ring there. Just don't let it be. I mean, if he comes to the Raiders, I'm okay with it because then I might like bump into him at Trader Joe's or some shit. That'd be cool.
I mean, okay. I get all this. You want him back. I could see him. You're right. I think they'll give him his money. It's been reported that they have offered him an extension. There's been all kinds of reports. Like, there's a report that the Broncos were close to trading for him. There's a report that he wanted the GM fired. That's the only way he's going to come back. There's all these reports, and I don't know. I tend to not believe him with Rodgers because he tends to break his own news, and it's usually, like you said, through Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I get the Packers have had a great offense. But they really don't deserve for Aaron Rodgers to continually bail him out. They've time and time again proved that they don't value him as much as they should. That's my issue. I don't like the guy, but I recognize he is a phenomenal quarterback, one of the best, most skilled quarterbacks of all time. And yet this franchise constantly has relied on him bailing him out after they make bonehead after bonehead decision. What do you do with your star players? You fucking talk to them. You reward them. You give them weapons when they ask for fucking weapons. The Cincinnati Bengals just drafted a receiver in Jamar Chase after their quarterback blew out his knee because they wanted to keep him happy because of his college teammate. You can't afford one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time that same dignity, that same respect. This organization, I'm sorry to say this, does not deserve him. They don't deserve this tremendous luck, skill, whatever, of the streak of quarterbacks. They used one fucking pick in the last decade on an offensive player, and it was flat out his replacement. It was intended to be his replacement, and then you made him go fucking savage mode and get the MVP because you pissed him off, and he sat idly by knowing full well he was going to do this and want out. He said, here's your MVP season, and fuck you. You wasted a pick on a guy to replace me. And good luck finding that kind of production. Because I have a feeling their luck's about to run out because they've had quite the streak going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. And I get it's worked out in the past, but this is ridiculous. Yes, they have Devontae Adams. Yes, they've found all these random-ass people to play wide receiver 2, which don't even try to convince me they're worth anything. They still, all of that being said, they still had a chance, despite their issues at corner, they still had a chance to show, hey, we're serious about getting you a weapon this year. They could have got a corner in round 2. They could have made a statement for their quarterback to get a wide receiver, a skilled guy in the end of the first round. They still didn't fucking do it. The Packers do not fucking deserve Aaron Rodgers. I promise you that. They've proven it time and time again, and yet they keep expecting him to bail them out. And I say this as someone, you number one podcast listeners know, I don't fucking dig the guy. The same reasons you like him, Grant, the smugness, I fucking hate. It drives me up the wall. But he is a fucking amazing quarterback. There's about maybe one team that has Patrick Mahomes that shouldn't want him on their team, and another that has the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady that probably wouldn't want him. Every other team would be lining up to have him, and yet the team that has him can't even bother to pick up the goddamn phone when they're going to try to draft his replacement. They can't decide to do any fucking scouting on a receiver in the first round to get him help besides Devontae Adams playing out of his goddamn mind and them having someone with 3 names drop easy wide open balls. And we pretend like he's some wide receiver too, like Aaron Rodgers didn't make all these guys. He's bailed out this franchise time and time again, and they don't frankly deserve him. So I know you're frustrated and you're somewhere between wanting him back, but from the outside looking in, it's an absolute shame the way they handled this situation. They don't fucking deserve him bailing him out. And that is absolutely how it looks to the outside, because he has bailed that fucking team out and been pretty much the only reason that they have been in contention every year. And they don't deserve to be anymore.
So I can give you my anti-Rodgers slant if you want.
What's that?
So here's my thing. Yes, Rodgers bailed out this team for like ever since they won that first Super Bowl with him, right? And that's been the case forever. Mike McCarthy legitimately just said, who? Yeah, exactly. Your guy, Mike McCarthy. Magic Mike, if you will. He was constantly bailed out by this guy. Now, I would argue, if I'm, sitting pretty here, Aaron Rodgers had the year of his life, the best year of his career at age 36, 37. Bonkers shit. This team didn't get that renaissance until they hired Matt LaFleur, who completely reimagined how this offense operates. And the front office did a lot of work. Here's one really crucial note, I think, for the people who are like, they don't give Rodgers weapons crowd, right? After Devontae Adams, it is a lot of people with a lot of names who are kind of like cycling in and out, filling gadget roles. I think Amari Rodgers is going to help that a lot, because Amari Rodgers was mentored and modeled his game after Randall Cobb. Very much so a Rodgers-style guy. We've been needing a true slant receiver. MVS is the definition of boomer bust. He has the most yards per catch number in the league, because all of his catches are fucking home runs or drops. And they just came off of a year where they had the number one offense. They're coming off a year where a lot of the guys Rodgers was worried about losing came back. They got Aaron Jones back on a really team-friendly deal. They got David Bakhtiari back, his BFF on the team. Mercedes Lewis sticking around another year. A big part of that is he expects Rodgers to be there. I don't buy the narrative that he's telling other people, like, hey, I'm gonna come play with me somewhere else, because everyone who has helped Rodgers hit those huge numbers is still in Green Bay. And, MVS is acting like he never heard anything. Aaron Jones said, Aaron didn't talk to me. When I re-signed, he congratulated me. You've got David Bakhtiari, who no way he stays the Packer if Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be there. He loves that guy a lot. You've got people in the defense who are like, none of them, fuck, we didn't know. I don't buy that it's just him feeling like he doesn't have weaponry. I feel like he's smart enough to know you have to draft for what you're lacking in, and he's had a lot of decent weapons throughout the years. We enjoyed a very large stint of time where he had Nelson and Cobb, or he did have good tight ends, or they added a lot of extra fuel to help those playoff pushes. And then for whatever reason, consistently in the biggest games of Rodgers' career, the defense allows over 30 points. I think almost all of Rodgers' playoff losses are in days the defense failed him. So Green Bay keeps going back to try and refresh the defense. We just replaced the coordinator again. I think he's smart enough to realize MVS wasn't the problem. And even in that draft where they, lost out on, where they didn't get a wide receiver and traded up to get Love, they were looking to draft wide receiver, and the Vikings got the guy they wanted, so they just let the board fall where it will. I think it's a stupid-ass decision to try and replace your once-in-a-lifetime quarterback with plenty of time on his contract with a QB in the first round, no matter how sold you are on him. I hope it works out, either in the reality where Aaron Rodgers plays until he's 41 and retires, or you get draft picks for him. But to suggest that Aaron Rodgers hasn't been operating with good offenses at the very least is like, yeah, but you have. Right now you have the biggest free agent running back. You just re-signed him to the Packers. You have the biggest free agent left tackle. You re-signed him to the Packers. You had the biggest free agent defensive lineman. You just re-signed him. So they're making these moves to keep the band together, and these are all specific guys that Rodgers talked about in his exit interview after losing to the Buccaneers. He was like, I'm worried about losing Aaron Jones. I'm worried about losing these guys who are we have a lot of free agents pending. So you said, okay, I got them all, except for Corey Linsley, who was always going to just make more money than we could ever offer him in 5 lifetimes. So,
right.
I don't know, Aaron. You've got a lot to work with in this offense, and they just gave you a really great weapon for a really low premium of a third-round pick. Amari Rodgers could rocket to wide receiver 2, if not wide receiver 3, pretty quick, depending on how Allen Lazard pans out. So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot there to work with. Plus, A.J. Dillon ended up being a hell of a get in the second round because we lost Jamal Williams, but we replaced him with someone who's arguably better and runs harder and different than Aaron Jones. So this offense could look a lot different and be a lot more efficient. Rodgers could hit the big 5-0 if he just comes on back and re-signs that astronomical contract we've been hearing about. I'm into it. I hope he's into it. And if he's not into it, my dude, you'll be the biggest free agent since trade get since Peyton Manning. But all the stars seem to be aligning with, this is your place. Up to you to make it so. Because I think if he can go anywhere he wants, but if he wants to win a ring,
up to you to make it so. Basically, hit the story when he's been in Green Bay. Yeah, I mean, I get he has offensive weapons and they have a productive offense. A lot of that is Aaron Rodgers, obviously, and a lot of it probably is Matt LaFleur. I think the bigger concern is the lack of respect from the front office.
Oh, absolutely. You gotta tell your guy if you're going quarterback. If the Vikings can give Kirk Cousins a heads up, you gotta clue Aaron Rodgers in the draft room on what's going on.
It's just not that fucking hard.
No, it's not. And I hope they find a way to reconcile that. I don't know how you reconcile that. I don't know if you have to trade Love. I don't think they're going to fire the GM who's got them to 2-13-3 records the past 2 years. But, I don't know. They got to figure something out to satiate that guy. Because personally, if I have arguably the greatest, if not one of the greatest guys in my quarterback room, I'm not itching to move on from him.
All right. Well, we're going to put a bow on the future Jeopardy host, Aaron Rodgers.
I'm also into that, just for the record. I'm very into that if that happens. I love it.
So, we're going to move over to the Cincinnati Bengals, and You Played Yourself goes to the Bengals. They passed up a chance at helping protect their franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow, with Penei Sewell at number 5, to instead draft his college teammate, Jamar Chase. Great receiver. My top receiver in the draft. Fine. Nothing about Chase. More about the Bengals and their shitty offensive line. Yes, Bengals fan. I know they drafted Jackson Carman in the second round. I know everybody wants to tell me, see, you don't always need to address line only in the first round. Yeah. I'm not dumb. I know it's not only first round pick. I've been watching all 7 rounds of the draft since I was a kid. You're not telling me something I don't fucking know. But let me, if as long as we're saying fucking obvious things to each other, this just in, when you're picking in the top 5, you get afforded the right to have a top player at a position, and it just so happens that this draft class in all 7 rounds was deeper at wide receiver than it was at offensive line, and the top offensive lineman, Penei Sewell, was higher than number 2, then Jamar Chase was higher than the second best receiver. Okay? So as long as we're saying obvious things, last time I checked, Joe Burrow blew out his knee because you couldn't protect him, couldn't keep him upright, and it's amazing he lasted that long in the season. Everybody saw the picture of his knee and the scars from the surgery, yet what do? You go out and get another receiver that he might not even have time to get the ball to. Fantastic.
Yeah, no, I don't get it.
And just real quick, as long as we're talking fucking obvious thing, maybe it's obvious, but I'd rather have the best lineman in the draft and go get a receiver elsewhere in, like I said, a very deep draft. So if you were keen on getting Joe Burrow, a college teammate, how about, for example, Terrace Marshall, who somehow lasted until the 59th overall pick. He wound up on the Panthers, but you could have gotten Joe Burrow, a college teammate, in the second round and still wound up with the top lineman. Or you could go get someone like Rondale Moore in round 2. I don't know. Maybe it seemed like protecting Burrow was more important than getting him another weapon he may not have time to distribute the football to. Just me, though. I know some Bengals fans got their wish with Chase, and I hope for their sake and Burrow's sake that they're right in their decision. Nothing against Jackson Carman, nothing against Jamar Chase. Again, I just think if you have a franchise quarterback, you go and fucking protect him after you didn't do that in his rookie year. You're trying to have this investment of your future last and not end his career early from injury. You might want to invest in fucking protecting him with the best lineman in the draft instead of a receiver who you might not be able to get the fucking ball to. For the love of football gods, keep our guy Burrow healthy. Okay, next up. Speaking of just teams picking in the top 5, I guess we have to do this. Jacksonville Jaguars and head coach Urban Meyer. Urban, my guy. Go Bucks, of course. But no one's safe, all right? You know this is you played yourself. I've had people I love more on this section, okay? This man spent a first-round pick and one of the best running backs in the draft class, Travis Etienne, to reportedly use him as a third down back, according to Urban himself. Okay, and then also, let's also add that not necessarily the hugest you played yourself, but Etienne's been lining up at slot receiver in rookie minicamp. I mean, fine, maybe you're developing his receiving skills, but I don't exactly get the plan here. Speaking of the Jags, you knew this was coming. Grant, we have to talk about this.
Thank you.
Tim Tebow is reportedly set to sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars and his former college coach, Urban Meyer, in Jacksonville to play tight end. We could talk about how someone like Tebow gets a shot at a different position after spending years in baseball and about over 3,000 days since last playing in the NFL over a guy like Colin Kaepernick, who we all know the reason why he's not playing. Or we could talk about the other guys who Tebow could be taking a spot from, like people who've been working their whole careers for it, trying to be tight ends. We could talk about that. But instead, let me just simply give you played yourself to the attention it takes from maybe their franchise quarterback, whom they just drafted number 1 overall in Trevor Lawrence. You want to give all the attention over to a former quarterback turned tight end who gets every chance in the world, I guess, to do whatever the fuck he wants. Because it's Tim Tebow? I don't know. Because it's not what you know, it's who you know, clearly. Or let's add a straight up you played yourself to Urban Meyer and the locker room he's now walking into. How about the locker room trust when you walk in as a coach and you decide to sign a guy like Tim Tebow, who had his chance, could have switched over to tight end a long time ago, and it would have made a lot more sense. But instead, you bring him in after a long-ass hiatus from the league to play a position he's never played before over any other guy you could sign that has been playing their whole life at that position. You played yourself, Urban, and the Jacksonville Jags. What the fuck is the plan here?
I'm very on record for hating Tim Tebow. There is an argument there where people are like, oh, it's not Tebow's fault that he was given the opportunities he was given. You know, it's not his fault that he's a beloved media figure. I'm like, yes, the fuck it is. That man made a fucking show of his faith to cater to an audience that would so obviously be into it. And because he's a media fucking phenomenon, anywhere he goes is going to generate tons of attention, and that's why you fucking sign a guy like Tebow, right? It's a big look at me, I'm getting the boy you all like. And I'm a Mets fan. I've watched Tim Tebow suck at 2 sports. He wasn't good in Denver. He was somehow worse as a baseball player, and now he's like, please, Daddy Urban, I would really like the chance to do football again. And I'm like, you get eaten. And Urban, big fuck you. Like, just absolutely fuck you. I mean, you mentioned the Kaepernick situation, which annoys me to no end, because I personally think, yeah, if I was out of the league for as long as Cap's been out, of course it's going to be hard for me to land in a roster spot. But for Tim Tebow to be like, hey, it's been like 9 years, job, please. And for people to be like, don't blame Tebow for getting it. He has a fucking job. He's an analyst for ESPN College. Yeah. He's set for life with every fucking thing he's ever done. He's not like some kid who's just had a rough time of it. Like, he's fucking Tim Tebow. He's got millions of dollars by licensing his name alone. Fuck him, fuck the Jags. I mean, it's a shame they're drawing attention away from Trevor Lawrence, but I'm sure once the season starts, they'll have the attention right back when Tebow's a practice squad cut or whatever. But for them to even think about signing that guy at this junction in this political climate, when we're so aware of that privilege and bias that right in the NFL's backyard even, tone deaf at worst, nepotistic at best, or reverse that, nepotistic at worst. You know what I mean? Fuck him.
Yeah. I don't know what the angle here is with Urban. He already had that situation with hiring Chris Doyle as the strength coach. It's like, dude, read the fucking room, man. I don't get that.
He thinks he's
what's
invincible.
going on here.
He's like, I can do whatever the hell I want. I'm
and
Urban
he probably
Meyer.
is right now.
Yeah.
Apparently, he must have that impression with Shad Khan and the Jags front office, because that's kind of how he's up. Oh, by the way, can we, before we wrap up, you played yourself. You know, I had an non-sports related. Maybe I'll start throwing these in because I get bothered by weird things like this, but You Played Yourself goes to personalized license plates. Like, you number one podcast listeners, I'm sorry if you have one. You're still number one in my book. But I've never read one fucking personalized license plate and thought, wow, that's clever. Or, oh my God, that's so funny. Or, I wish I thought of that. Like, I can't believe people pay extra for these personalized license plate. I drove by someone the other day and they're in a particular model of car. We'll just call it car, okay? Like CAR, right? Their license plate said, "It's my car." Fam, what? Like, no one was assuming that the car wasn't yours, person driving it. Like, you needed to put that on a plate. You paid extra for that. We can see the model of car you're driving, and your plate just says, "It's this." We just stating obvious things again? Like, is this Cincinnati Bengals fans? Jamar Chase again? I don't know.
The only thing I appreciate with custom license plates is how much easier it is to report you for being a jackass to, like, the traffic police.
Yeah,
you
like,
know, you can misread a number or something, but you're like, I need to call in a license plate that says Daddy's Girl.
Amen. Yeah, that angle, of course. You get an accident. Oh, I'll never forget that license plate.
Yeah.
Oh, did you need to write down my license plate? It said
Nope.
midlife crisis or no, I'll remember that.
Yeah, no, I'll never forget you.
Now let's move on to who you got and what you feeling. And last episode was a little NFL draft preview. So, you number one podcast listeners, hopefully you tuned in for that. I'm not going to recap all the questions that were sent in. I want to send a thank you to number one podcast listeners for submitting questions, for Thomas to answer, our resident draft scouting expert. So he answered a whole bunch of questions. A little plug for last episode. Even though the draft's already done, feel free to go back on and listen to it as the football season starts getting going, so you know what you're looking for with this. So with that, I wanted to focus in on our picks this year. So we talked a little NFL draft, Grant. I wanted to go over our winners of the draft. So I'll go first for this one. My winners of the draft, I would say the Cleveland Browns. The Browns were in a true best player available situation. They did a phenomenal job in free agency to address their needs on both sides of the ball. They got Greg Newsome at the end of round one, cornerback out of Northwestern. And then they had Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah fall to them in round two at 52nd overall. A little Buckeye plug here. They got a great value defensive tackle towards the end of round four, and Tommy Togiai. I thought he was going to go day two. So getting him in round four and at the beginning of day three of the draft, I thought was a great value for them and adds depth to their defensive line unit. Yeah. I love, I know we talked about Corey Linsley earlier, his new team, the Los Angeles Chargers. I love that the Chargers got Rashawn Slater. Slater was kind of the benefit of the Chargers because all these other players went a little early. I think the Panthers went J.C. Horn, and that kind of started a little bit of a domino effect. And then you had the Eagles-Cowboys swap and the Bears trading up for Justin Fields. So that left the Chargers with Rashawn Slater to add to a unit that they have really emphasized this offseason. Cincinnati Bengals, sorry to pick on you again, but that might be maybe take a page out of what they're doing, protecting their rookie quarterback after just one season where he didn't in fact get hurt, didn't just get hurt in front of their face. They still decided to protect him through free agency and a first-round pick in Rashawn Slater, so love that move. Speaking of offensive linemen, the Lions having Penei Sewell fall to them at number 7 I thought was an absolute steal. I never thought that would happen in any of these mock drafts, but touche to them for getting best player available. I think the rumor was that they were probably going to trade out, and Dan Campbell got a real like bite off their knees type guy, so they stayed put at number 7. And of course, as I said before,
a team that is known as
the Bears trading up for Justin Fields, absolute home run.
the Bears. The Bears.
You know, Q, that's my quarterback by TL.
It's my quarterback.
We love QB1, and hopefully he balls out for the Bears. Who you got, Grant?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of agreement there. I think the Lions had just a really great draft across the board. They were able to fill a lot of their blatant holes. Penei Sewell is obviously great. Chargers have arguably one of the best offensive lines in football now, so that should be a breeze for Herbert. I low-key think the Vikings did really well. You know, they picked up Darisaw by trading out, so they got a lot of help right there. Kirk Cousins was hit a bunch. And then getting some Kirk Cousins insurance and Kellen Mond, who I'm low-key kind of high on. I think that's a really good situation for him to land in.
Very high shoulder pads, that Kellen Mond.
Very high shoulder pads. But I don't know. I like Kellen Mond a lot. I think he's going to be a fun little asset, just a little sneaky draft pick they can rely on in like a year or two. Hopefully, that'd be cool as hell. I hate to say the rest of the NFC North did really well, but the rest of the NFC North did really well. And I mean, we give the Packers a lot of shit, but they addressed all their biggest needs in the first 3 rounds. They got really speedy corner. They got a replacement for Corey Linsley in the second with their center, and then they picked up Amari Rodgers. So that's
also out of Ohio State. Don't skip over that. Josh Myers. They replaced one Ohio State center with another. So. Shout out them for
big Josh Meyer guy.
There.
I think that's a plug and play player, really great value in the second. You know, it's easy to get lost in all the Rodgers drama, but when you look at who the Packers picked up, it's like, okay, they were clearly thinking this is our year, so let's go fucking get it. So I think the whole NFC North did it really well. Patriots compounded a really good offseason with a pretty good draft. Get your potential guy for the future in Maga Jones. May he die in peace. You know, Pat's draft doesn't look half bad. I think a lot of people did absurdly well, maybe outside of like a handful. I'm not nuts about the Ravens draft, but landing who they landed at wide receiver in the first round is pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, everyone did shockingly well. This is a really deep draft, so it's a lot of fun.
All right, so let's head over to the losers of the draft. Who do you
for
who do you
losers
got
of the
that?
draft? You know, I'm not crazy about what the Giants did. Now, I understand what they did for sure. I thought they took
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, they took Kadarius Toney way early before guys like fucking Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore, hell, even Amari Rodgers. Like, there's a bunch of players who was like, okay, that's kind of a reach. I would say he would have been there.
They definitely had a situation where they had their guys taken right before them. I think Eagles trading up to get Smith was probably going to be the Giants guy, and the other top receivers were gone. So
very tricky situation to land themselves in. But I will give big ups to their GM for finally trading down for once in his stupid life.
So I would say mine, and they weren't like a complete loser of the entire draft, but the Raiders taking Alex Leatherwood at 17 overall was a major
I love John
reach.
Gruden.
I mean, maybe it was a good pick last year, but it seems like all they do is draft players solely from big programs. Like they just say fuck it to scouting and just go for guys from Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama most of the time.
Exactly right.
All right. Let's move over. We talked a little NBA, so let's give me your favorites in each conference. I know we don't want to make picks because obviously the NBA playoffs are very long, so we have a long way to go. But give me some teams that you're looking at. I know you mentioned earlier you're looking for a Sixers Suns final, but
probably jinxed forever because I said that. I'm very, very intrigued by the Clippers, especially.
What it do, baby?
I wish it was under better circumstances because I don't like super teams, but I'm very intrigued by the Clippers. And boy, if I don't love the Knicks. Do I think they're gonna go particularly far in the playoffs? No. Do I love that they're here? Absolutely. I think that's a lot of fun to have the Knicks there, and they could low key maybe beat the Hawks. Maybe, I don't know. That'd be fun. It's a very fun matchup. I think they're pretty evenly matched. Milwaukee always a threat, but I don't know if they can hang with the big boys in Philly and Brooklyn.
No, they can't.
No.
No, they can't.
But, I think the Knicks are a lot of fun, and I think, the teams who have a shot because of the play-in are a lot of fun. West Coast, anyone but Utah. Fuck the Jazz. I don't know. I went from hating the Warriors to being really into what Steph is doing right now, just willing his team there. Kind of low-key hope they stun the Lakers. Nothing against LeBron. Big LeBron guy, but it'd be fun. I'm all about the upsets and the narratives. But I'm really pulling for Phoenix and Philadelphia especially.
All right. Well, in the East, I'm going with the villains, unfortunately. Since even if they win it, it won't count. I don't make the rules, but I guess I do.
When will Durant get that ring?
Never. It was looking like it was going to be this year, and then they went and fucked it up. And then the West, I'm going with the Lakers.
Ooh.
I'm going to count on LeGod James until he proves me wrong. So it's playoff mode. Let's see it happen. I'm rooting for him. I want to see him get a title because I just mainly love, like the revisionist history where people who, not saying you, but people pretend to be like they were LeBron fans the entire time while they talk shit all year. So I really hope he shuts them up again and makes a run in the playoffs. I guess we'll find out, but I'm rolling with him until I get proven wrong. And if it does happen this year, maybe I'll change my tune, but who are we kidding? Probably
My
not.
wife would love it. She's a big Lakers fan.
All right, man. So, what you feeling lately?
Oh, man. Lately, stupid fucking movies. I don't know. I've hit this point. The pandemic's lifting, but I'm still working from home, and I still don't go anywhere. So I've just been really into just like finding the dregs of dumb movies that I can find and enjoy. If you have HBO Max, a plethora of just the greatest, stupidest entertainment in the world. If you've never seen Waiting for Guffman, it's on HBO Max. It's a mockumentary starring Eugene Levy, pre-Schitt's Creek. Super funny. Also, if you're into just like things that take itself a little too seriously, but also not seriously enough to be cheesy, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, also on HBO Max. Low-key favorite movie of mine. Is it good? Absolutely not. Is it a good time? You betcha. And if you ever get the chance to watch Speed Racer, the live-action version, please do. I think that's one of the greatest movies ever made. Love Speed Racer. So please do your...
There's some deep cuts.
I've just been like, man, I really love really goofy-ass comedies that aren't super up their own ass. And the dumber, the better. I can't recommend it enough.
I love it. All right. I'm feeling... So my wife and I started Ozark, and we're flying through this show, and we're really enjoying it. I hope it doesn't tail off, but that first season was great. We're on to season 2 now, so no spoiler alerts, but we're really into the show right now. So we usually like to find a show that we're both watching. And then I recently rewatched How to Make It in America. Still fantastic show. Still holds up. That's kind of a deep cut show not everybody knows about, but if you're ever looking for an easy to watch show, it's one of those shows that ended way too early. It was probably before its time, but it's also available on HBO. It was an HBO show. It only ran 2 seasons, but it is fantastic. So check it out. Fantastic show. I highly recommend. The episodes are like a half hour long, so it's very easy to fly through. But definitely, if you're a Community fan, it has infamous Luis Guzman.
Oh shit! Yeah, there he is.
Rep the squad. He's in there. He's actually playing a role in that one, not just reference. Most. I like to wrap up each episode. Let's move over to Too Much Sense. All right, you number one podcast listeners. My Too Much Sense for this week has to do with showing up. So I came to this realization because we've had a lot of cool events for close friends, family, all that stuff recently. And I realized that you'll never regret showing up for someone you love, but you might just regret not showing up for them. So I've talked before about prioritizing yourself, and I think it's very important. But keep in mind that being there for someone you care about can help your own happiness. It can help bring you to that point of being at peace internally so that you can be your best self externally. There's just some moments where it's important for you to be there, and I genuinely think that you'll never regret being there for someone because they would do the same for you. If they're close enough to you, they would do the same for you. So that's my too much sense for this week.
I love that. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like showing up for other people is rewarding in its own right. It's rewarding internally as much as it is being there for someone else. I think it's a cool thing to be able to, you find, at least I do, I find a lot of, self-assurance by being known and being present for other people. I think it's a beautiful thing and can help your own inner self. So
absolutely,
that's my too much sense for this week, man.
Absolutely, and if anyone is really good at it, it's Premal Bot, ladies.
I appreciate it, man. Well, you number one podcast listeners, that does it for another edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Prem Brulee. Grant, I want to thank you for joining me on this episode. A very heavy Aaron Rodgers themed episode. I don't like to give him too much attention, but this called for it. I want to thank you for being on here, man. And you number one podcast listeners, go support the man. He's got multiple podcasts available. Alternate Jersey's one of them. The other is called Grant Rants. My dude Grant, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for letting me vomit my anxieties for half an hour.
Amen. That's what we're here for, microphone therapy. All right, you number one podcast listeners, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff, and we will talk to you next time.